In addition to these wonderful student leaders, I want to acknowledge our other graduating student leaders, some of whom I've asked to join us on stage today in recognition of their outstanding service. These students have held top leadership positions in our student organizations, whose programs greatly contribute to the life of our school. I ask you to please stand so we can publicly acknowledge and applaud all of them for what they've done to make New York Law School a strong and vital place. There are a number of other prizes and recognitions of student excellence listed in your commencement program, and I encourage you to take note of the depth and breadth of their accomplishments. They are an exceptional group, and I congratulate all of them. Now we come to one of the highlights of our commencement ceremony, the student addresses. Each year, members of the graduating class submit applications to be given the honor of addressing their classmates and guests. The Commencement Speakers Committee, comprised of students, faculty, and administrators, is tasked with selecting student speakers among many worthy applicants. It is always a very difficult choice to make, and this year was no exception. I'm happy to introduce this year's committee choices. First, for the day division, Sophie Ryder. Sophie Ryder started her career as a pastry chef, attending pastry school at the French Culinary Institute in New York City, and then working at the Modern Restaurant before attending college. During her undergraduate education, she changed her focus and studied the history of race, culture, and ethnic immigration in New York City. She graduated cum laude in 2010 with a bachelor's degree from New York University. During law school, she pursued her interests in real estate and litigation and diversified her studies by becoming affiliated with the Center for Real Estate Studies and interning for the Honorable George B. Daniels in the United States District Court for the Southern District. She served as the events and programming editor of the New York Law School Law Review, and in October, she will be a first-year associate at Shearman and Sterling in the Litigation Practice Group. Sophie would like to thank her family and especially thank all of her close friends for all of their support and guidance. Sophie?
Welcome, faculty and guests of our distinguished 2014 graduating class. When I was asked why I wanted to speak at graduation, I said it was because law school helped me develop a better sense of myself, and it helped me become the person I believe I was always meant to be. And on the very last day of our law school careers, I would like to take us all back to the beginning, back to first semester, because first semester was the first step in that journey, a journey that we all took together. Many people don't believe me when I say this, but during first semester of law school, I cried almost every day. I cried so much, in fact, that if a couple days went by and I didn't call my dad having a nervous breakdown, he would get worried and call me. Yes, your classmate standing here is a huge crybaby. Often I cried out of confusion or sheer exhaustion. Efforts to make a dent in the work you were assigned seemed impossible. It seemed as though first semester couldn't be tamed. But most of the time, I cried because I was scared. Listening to Dean Hogan's convocation speech during orientation, as she outlined all of the reasons why one goes to law school, and consistently reiterated just how hard of a journey we had all decided to embark on. It was not just intimidating, it was downright frightening. Did I make the right decision? Am I capable? How can I compete with all these amazingly brilliant students? Why should I try? And one day, my father gave me a piece of advice that I share with you now, in the hopes that it will help you better understand this journey in the way that it has helped me. He said, "Heart of a lion. You're freaking out now, but when you walk into school, check that fear at the door and never let them see you sweat. Law school is difficult for everyone. And first semester is like an initiation. Work hard, try your best. You can do this." I know, he's a good dad, right? So why do I share this with you? My secret, my mantra, the words I kept saying to myself right before I walked onto this very stage. I share it with you because he was right. First semester of law school is like an initiation, but it wasn't just me going through it. We all went through it together. It wasn't just that I could do it. It was that we all could do it, and we all did do it, and we did it magnificently. And it didn't matter why we decided to come to law school or where our career paths or our lives take us, because there was something inside us, something that made us choose this path, something that made us decide that this was how we were going to figure out not just what we wanted to do professionally, but who we are and how we were going to benefit others, and ultimately, how we were going to become the people that we were always meant to be. I share this story and this mantra with you because there will be moments in the future, at least once, when you might be a little scared of the challenges you face. Regardless of what it is, remember, heart of a lion. Work hard and try your best. You can do this. I know you can. And you know you can too. I share this with you because it's not just first semester or law school that made me into the person I am now. It was all of you. We have all learned so much from each other, not just about the law, but about ourselves. Walking out of that last exam of our first semester was one of the greatest feelings I have ever felt. And I was overwhelmed by how proud I was to make it through that initiation with the greatest group of people that I had ever met. Classmates and faculty that I admire and respect, and friends. Friends who I will have for the rest of my life. And all I can say is thank you. Remember, as we go forward in our careers and in life, that feeling we had walking out of the last final of our first semester, of this feeling now, in completing this moment, the most challenging and stimulating 3 or 4 years of most people would never have the courage to attempt. You all have shaped my life, and we have shaped each other's lives in so many ways that enumerating them would be impossible. We must remember this, and in the future, help one another when we have the opportunity to do so, whether that is in a courtroom, a conference room, or out on the street. Because this path, this journey that we have all traveled on together at New York Law School is something special, and it can never be replicated or relived. So while I stand here before all of you, literally beaming with pride at being selected to speak at our graduation, it will never surpass the pride I feel standing among you as a fellow graduate of New York Law School's 2014 class. Thank you, and congratulations.
Wow. Thank you, Sophie. Our next speaker is doing triple duty. William Manabu Lemon, who was introduced as a candidate for the Trustees Prize for highest grade point average and as a Rose Award winner, was also selected to address the class as our evening division speaker. Please join me in welcoming William back.
My fellow evening students, congratulations, we finally made it. Four years ago, we embarked on a seemingly uncertain journey. We knew it would be challenging. We knew we'd have to juggle the competing responsibilities of work, of school, and of family. During this time, we've made tough choices and overcome difficult circumstances. Whether it was sacrificing time at home to volunteer, sacrificing your summer vacations to graduate early, or taking a pay cut to take a legal internship, we did it all to pursue our dreams of becoming lawyers. For each of us, our lives as evening students has been a balancing act. We pursued careers and grew in our personal lives, all while we grinded it out, Monday through Thursday, week in, week out. Because of this, we learned from one another, and we enriched our collective education. This is what makes our experiences here unique. It's something we will proudly wear as a badge of honor. I will never forget those early mornings before work, the late nights after class, the weekends spent reading cases, rushing from the office to get to school on time, checking work emails during class, stressing over finals, calling in sick on exam days, but don't tell my boss. And last, the feeling of accomplishment and relief at the end of each semester. To be certain, without the love and support of our friends and families, we wouldn't be here today. But New York Law School has given us much more than a diligent work ethic and the stamina to withstand a legal marathon. Although we will never forget the wonderful terror of first-year contracts with Professor Costant, or even the anxiety of first-year oral arguments, we learned even more from each other's experiences that occurred beyond the walls of 185 West Broadway. This expanded our classroom learning. 4 years ago, I never thought that as students, we'd appear in court, work with lawmakers and judges, or even have the opportunity to work directly with clients. But that's what happens when you go to New York Law School. 4 years ago, I couldn't have imagined that the highlight of my law school career would be representing Congressman John Lewis. Before he was a congressman, John Lewis organized sit-ins, voter registration drives, and other civil rights demonstrations, including the March on Washington. In 1965, Congressman Lewis led a march in Alabama, where he and hundreds of others protested the widespread practices of denying racial minorities the right to vote. Their march ended when they were brutally beaten by state troopers. This prompted the federal government to pass the Voting Rights Act to eradicate pervasive racial discrimination in voting. Nearly 50 years later, the act was challenged on the grounds that the law was unconstitutional. The case eventually made its way to the U.S. Supreme Court. As a student with the law school's Racial Justice Project, I helped draft an amicus brief in that case on behalf of Congressman Lewis that we filed with the Supreme Court. We argued that voting discrimination persists to this day, but even though it may look different, it continues to threaten our democracy. Accordingly, we argued that the law was as justified now as it was in 1965. Our amicus brief reminded the court of the human sacrifice and the widespread racial prejudice that precipitated the Act's passage in the first place. Unfortunately, the court disagreed, and it struck down key provisions of the Act. However, despite losing, I learned some powerful lessons. First, I learned that as lawyers, we are called to serve our clients. This means that we must act as conduits for our clients. We become storytellers, harnessing the power of narrative. Whether it's a corporation or an indigent person, every client has a story to tell. As lawyers, we have the tools to bring those stories to life. Our amicus brief did just that. Second, I learned that no matter how compelling our clients' stories, how justified or well-reasoned our legal arguments, we can still lose. But even in defeat, we can become better advocates. We can learn from our mistakes. We can find new avenues and new opportunities to secure justice for our clients. And finally, I learned that the law is dynamic. The law shapes our society, but in turn, it is shaped by society, by people taking action, collectively or as individuals, in our courts, in our government institutions, and in our communities. Because of that, as lawyers, we have the privilege to vigorously engage the law. We have the power and ability to advocate for our clients, and in the process, to help shape the law and ultimately the society we live in. The question becomes, how will you engage the law? How will you shape our society? Put differently, now that we have learned the law, how will we now take action? Each of us as individuals must decide how we will use what we have learned here over the past 4 years to both engage the law and shape our society. As we leave New York Law School and enter the world as lawyers, we must remember that we've been called to seek justice for our clients. I am truly excited to see what great things we will achieve. Today, we thank our professors at New York Law School. We celebrate our accomplishments with our families and friends. And tomorrow, we begin our next journey, conquering the bar exam and entering the world of practice. Good luck and Godspeed.